Welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks so much for joining with us, and Merry Christmas to you. Well, more than $3 million. That's how much money the FBI paid Twitter to suppress negative tweets about the Biden family. Those revelations and more were uncovered in corporate emails dubbed the Twitter files.
Well, Republicans on Capitol Hill are outraged by the evidence and planning to make the scandal a top priority for the GOP majority in January. Dale Hurd has the story.
Twitter corporate emails released this week by new owner Elon Musk show the FBI paid Twitter almost $3.5 million over the course of 2 years for suppressing tweets damaging to Joe Biden and the Democrats. Documents reveal how the FBI treated Twitter like a department of the Bureau, telling the social media giant which tweets and accounts to take action against. In one of the many emails, FBI agent Elvis Chan forwarded to Twitter staff this list of accounts to block. More than a dozen former FBI employees still work at Twitter, although Musk fired former FBI General Counsel James Baker, who became Twitter's counsel, for his possible role in information suppression. In the days and weeks before the 2020 presidential election, it appears Twitter employees followed orders from the FBI and the Biden campaign, specifically blocking stories and tweets about Hunter Biden's laptop, which was found to contain emails showing influence peddling by then Vice President Joe Biden and possible crimes by his son. Mark Meckler was the CEO at the social media platform Parler and is president of Convention of States Action.
When the media itself becomes an instrument of government, which it seems like it has been, we're seeing that now with the release of the Twitter files, that's very dangerous because the media is now controlling the narrative that the government wants it to control.
Republicans on Capitol Hill are understandably furious. House Republicans are already gearing up for a sweeping investigation of Twitter's relationship with the FBI. Incoming House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer.
Anyone that cares about free speech should be outraged. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, this has to stop. This is going to be a top priority for the Republican majority in January.
Incoming House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner.
Who is it that's coordinating this? How can we cut off the money, prohibit this in the future? And we will use our subpoena power to track that down and make certain that this doesn't happen again.
And on the Republican House Judiciary Committee site, the simple tweet, "Does anyone still trust the FBI?" Meckler believes that by essentially serving as an arm of the government, Twitter has opened itself up to a First Amendment lawsuit, as has the FBI.
It appears that the government put so much pressure on Twitter and was working so closely in concert with Twitter that Twitter can be treated itself as a government actor, what we would call under the state actor theory, and is liable for First Amendment violations potentially.
But House Republican threats to use the power of the purse against the FBI by denying it funding could be short-circuited by the omnibus spending bill, which would fund the FBI for a full year. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, in my opinion, this is an absolutely shocking story. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, all Americans should be concerned, not just to the level of, well, I'm bothered by it, but demanding change. That the FBI has gotten involved in politics, that they're trying to be just like in the Roman Empire, the Praetorian Guard. They get to choose who's going to be the incoming emperor. That's exactly what they did here. They said, we're going to suppress negative information about a presidential candidate in the middle of a presidential campaign, and not just suppress it by saying it would be nice if you didn't publish this story, but we're actually going to pay you and pay you $3 million, and we're going to make sure FBI employees are now employees in your company. The very head of their legal division at Twitter, former FBI. This is absolutely outrageous, and all Americans should be concerned about this. What does this mean for the future of democracy if your Federal Bureau of Investigation is actively involved in campaign matters? This is something Congress should absolutely take up. It's something that obviously the Department of Justice should take up. This is illegal. You can't have federal employees engage in active campaigning. That's what this is. And it throws a light on everything that they've been doing recently, whether it's the supposed Russian collusion and not identifying the Steele dossier properly, taking an administration through 2 years of investigation, an independent counsel, all based on lies. This is all part of our campaigning. But we have to do something here. Let's go back in time, 2012. There you have an active campaign, President Obama running for re-election. What's going on at the IRS? There's this group called the Tea Party. They're trying to form organizations to engage in politics. They need to apply to the IRS for their tax status. This isn't so their donors get a deduction, it's so they're not taxed at income rates as a political organization. What does the IRS do? Well, they slow roll them. They don't let them get their tax-exempt status. Therefore, they're not operational in the campaign. Lois Lerner was part of that. She headed it up. She admitted to it in an investigation by Congress. She took the Fifth Amendment. Was there any action against her? No. And today she is drawing a pension from the U.S. government as a former government employee, even though clearly she admitted to political activity in her office at the IRS, where she reduced political speech. She prevented people from organizing. We have to stop this. This isn't something that the framers of the Constitution ever intended, that the very functions of government, the very bureaucracy that depends on federal funding is now actively involved in the election so that they can make sure their funding continues. That's what's going on here, and it is absolutely anti-democratic. Well, in other news, President Zelensky visits Washington, D.C. today. It's his first trip outside Ukraine since the war began. Wendy Griffith has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Wendy?
Gordon, Zelensky is scheduled to meet with President Biden at the White House today. He'll also sit down with members of the cabinet and national security officials for talks about the future of the war. This evening, Zelensky will make a joint address to Congress. Also, President Biden reportedly will announce nearly $2 billion in security assistance for Ukraine, including Patriot missile batteries. This as Russia continues its missile strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure, leaving millions with no heat in the freezing winter temperatures. A widespread winter storm threatens to disrupt the plans of millions of holiday travelers over the next several days. Meanwhile, local authorities across the country are worried about power outages due to high winds and ice. CBN's Abigail Robertson reports.
Large parts of the U.S. are bracing for blizzard conditions that could last through Christmas. The weather is likely to bring a dangerous combination of sub-zero temperatures and high winds.
It's already hit the Pacific Northwest. Today, it will hammer the Rockies, then the plains and Midwest with freezing temperatures and heavy snow. Tuesday in Chicago, travelers raced through O'Hare Airport, hoping to avoid delays and cancellations that the storm could bring. Thursday was already predicted to be the busiest holiday travel day. On Friday, the storm moves south. In Texas, the fear is power outages after a historic freeze in 2021 that knocked out electricity to 4 million and led to hundreds of deaths. One energy expert explained.
If it's in the single digits in DFW and it's in the teens in Houston and South Texas, there's very little chance that there wouldn't be some kind of rolling outage in those kinds of conditions. It's just too much demand.
But Lewin adds temperatures should be a little warmer this time around so the state can keep its power lines up and running. In Northern California, another natural disaster has left homes in ruin, damaged roads, and led to 2 deaths. Early Tuesday, a 6.4 earthquake rocked Rio Dell, north of San Francisco, cutting power to tens of thousands and destroying homes.
We were woke up by a big roar and things falling off the wall, hitting us on the head.
2 died from medical emergencies during the quake, but authorities say for others, an alert system helped them to drop, cover, and keep safe.
10 seconds in advance of the earthquake shaking to some 3 million people.
The quake area is lightly populated, which also helped.
In the next several days, watch for temperatures to drop dramatically across much of the country, including Central Florida this weekend. Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abby. Turning to Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to announce he's formed a new government before tonight's midnight deadline. According to Israeli media, the presumptive prime minister will relay that message to President Isaac Herzog later today. He could also ask for an additional 4 days to form his coalition government, but it appears he won't need it. The cabinet will be sworn in the days following the announcement. It would launch the 6th term for Israel's longest-serving prime minister. Well, since Israel reopened its borders in March, tourists have been flooding back. This influx is helping many areas, especially around Bethlehem this time of year. However, as Julie Stahl reports, a more pressing issue is facing the local Christian community.
Christians in Beit Zachor, the area where shepherds learned of Jesus' birth more than 2,000 years ago, are happily welcoming visitors back to their town.
This year is back, and the tourism now in Bethlehem is very good. We need tourism in Bethlehem. But without tourism in Bethlehem, we can't work.
We have more than 100 workshops for handicraft, for wood, olive wood, and mother bear.
Hani Al-Hayek is mayor of Beit Zachor, a majority Christian town linked to Bethlehem. He says about 2 million tourists visit here each year.
Christmas is Beit Zachor, it is something different because from Beit Zachor the angel announced that Jesus is born in this day. For us, we are the media of Jesus, and we are so happy to receive all our visitors from other towns.
Even with a boom of visitors, Beit Zachor and nearby Bethlehem are suffering an exodus of another kind. Christians have been leaving Palestinian Authority-controlled areas in great numbers for decades.
I view the future of the Christians here as gloomy or unpromising because the ongoing immigration is a big problem to us.
It's unclear exactly how many people have left Beit Zachor in the last 20 years, although Al-Hayek believes at least 20,000 now live in Chile and the U.S. That's a big number considering the current population is around 15,000, 80% Christian and 20% Muslim.
If you visit Flint in Chicago, United States, you think you are in Beit Zachor. They are seeking for security, seeking for economic situation. They are seeking for the best life for their families.
Samir Kumsie, who runs what's known as the Nativity TV station, sees emigration as a big problem.
I am afraid that one day will come that the Holy Sepulchre, the Nativity Church where Jesus was born, will be closed, empty museums.
Kumsie called on Christians worldwide to help their brothers and sisters in Beit Zachor to continue to live and thrive in the place tied to Jesus' birth. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. Definitely praying for the Christians there in Israel. Gordon?
And praying for Bethlehem. But Bethlehem, I remember visiting in the 1970s, absolutely profound experience. We had a candlelight service in the fields overlooking the city of Bethlehem. And shepherds wanted to know what these crazy Americans were doing, lighting candles. So we actually had shepherds who were guarding their flocks, and they came up as we were singing O Little Town of Bethlehem. But that is a distant memory now, because in Bethlehem, the population has flipped. It used to be 80% Christian, and now it's just 20% Christian. Why? Because of the Palestinian Authority. Under Israeli control, Bethlehem thrived, but under Palestinian control, it's not thriving anymore. And people are leaving in droves, a lot of them for opportunity, for jobs. But the biggest issue is security. And do Christians have security in the Palestinian Authority? I think the answer clearly is no.